Hey, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. Scott Linden here. Glad you could join me. Always an adventure into the outdoors, the uplands, following great dogs, with good friends, to beautiful places. I mean, what else is there to life? That's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk in particular about accessing public ground. Have a new guest you may not have heard of. We're going back to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Pheasant Fest, where I interviewed Keng Yang of Minnesota. His backstory is a little bit like mine. We'll talk more about that as we get into it, but got a wire hair and became a hunter later in life. Now he champions inclusivity in the field and has made a pretty good study of public and walk-in land. He'll have some advice for all of us. I made notes, and you will too. So stick around for that. After a few other things, including we will have later in the podcast a handle it tip. Another way to use your training table when you're teaching whoa. Learned this one by accident, but think it's worth passing on. And then we'll talk about your own feedback on a question I asked recently. What essential training gear does a new hunting dog owner need? It's all coming up right here on the Upland Nation podcast, made possible by Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, Pointer Shotguns, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, TrulockChokes Tubes, MidwayUSA.com, Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, LandTrust.com, ESPAmerica.com, and HiViz Shooting Systems. Okay, yeah, so conditioning is the highest priority around here. A little bit tough. It's a little bit warm, so we're getting up early. Ow. But Flick's getting in some good runs. The pollen is the biggest issue around here. Pine pollen this time of year. Maybe you can hear it in my voice. Was out this morning inhaling it. You don't have any choice. And also this week here at the home ranch, pushing hard on week 2 of the reprise season of Wing Shooting USA TV. 5 or 6 different networks carrying that. If you want to learn more about it, I can guarantee you probably haven't seen every episode. And even if you have, pretty fun stuff. This week, the week of July 8th. Sorry about that, July 8th. We're going to Nebraska to hunt pheasants at a place that is a storied breeding facility and also a hunting place. Where I had to visit to see the folks who were responsible for an incredibly motivating and inspiring dog story I did in an earlier season of the TV show. If you want to learn where to watch and when to watch, go to findbirdhuntingspots.com, then click on the More tab, then click on the Wing Shooting USA tab. Tell you every local station is carrying it, every network, every regional sports network, and then all the ways you can get it on your smart TV. Find birdhuntingspots.com. One of the more fun questions I asked, it's still kind of puppy season and talking a lot of puppy talk with a lot of people. Thought I'd ask you all, what is the critical equipment that we need to have if we're, starting a new dog or even an older dog, if we have one, and there's things that we must have. And got some great suggestions. I'm not going to touch on the more obvious ones, but there are a whole bunch of great ones that are worth making note of if you haven't already. Robert Murphy says, have a good supply of hot dogs when you're teaching tracking. Oh, and then, of course, the essential equipment also includes patience and a sense of humor. And one that's been said in many ways over many years, but it's absolutely true. There are no deadlines when you're working a pup. Every pup progresses at his own rate. A lot of patience from John Kozlowski as well. Absolutely. Birdwing, absolutely. Tracking color, tracking collar, whatever color you like. Can't agree more. It was on a short list that I put together for a magazine article recently. You may as well get it now and get the benefit of it when your pup is least likely to come back when you call. Positive reinforcement is George Cummins suggestion, and it's a great one. A quail retrieving dummy for very young dogs and a couple frozen quail. Lance Larson, thank you for that. Absolutely true. And then soon thereafter, live birds. Again, that's one of those things we kind of presume, but we don't presume. So find a source, start your own pigeon loft, whatever it takes, and have birds. As George Hickok said so many decades ago, no birds, no bird dog. Irving Kreiderman says, yes, lots of love. Absolutely true. Tom J, birds. Of course, Tom J would say birds, birds, and more birds. Yeah, so true. A check cord. Absolutely, Aaron Gotteridge. Thanks for the reminder there. Leash and slip collar or a chain. Yeah, true as well. Grant Goblish, particularly true for some of those hard-headed dogs like wire hairs. Yeah. Let's see. More birds. Wonderlead. Joe Rundell, thanks for the reminder. Absolutely true. In fact, I'll be doing a video for Midway USA on how to teach heel real soon. And I wasn't very good at it until Ronnie Smith gave me one of his wonder leads. You might see it written as a command lead. It's, if you know the rodeo business, it looks like a piggin string, and that's probably its origins. I've never asked Uncle Delmer about that, but it's absolutely the spitting image of the string, the rope that rodeo athletes use to tie the calves' feet down when they're doing roping. Anyway, it is probably the best tool for teaching heel. So if you haven't got one, go get one. Get the wonder lead, the command lead, whatever you call it. You can find it just about everywhere. Yeah, starter pistol, absolutely true, Jeff Weiland. So thanks for all those suggestions. They're all good. And they're the kind of things that when you see it in the list, like on the Facebook pages or the Instagram page, you say, oh, man, I wish of course. Yeah, I'm going to go get that. And you may as well get it now. You'll get more mileage out of it. Your dog will start off on the right paw. And isn't that what it's all about? Well, thank you all for your feedback on that. Great answers. I appreciate that. Tons and tons of great information at the Facebook pages, Instagram, and Twitter. It's all there. Take a look. You'll learn something. I sure do. And that portion of the program was brought to you by landtrust.com. Yeah, it's a DIY option that focuses on you and your dog with a safe, quality experience. Wherever you live and wherever you want to go, you know when you get there, that place is going to be yours. It's going to be curated carefully, well managed, and you'll have a great chance at finding birds. It's a free account at landtrust.com, so go online, sign up, scout around, see where you want to go on your trip of the season or your trip of the lifetime or just a long weekend somewhere. Affordable, convenient, and boy, do they have an inventory of places to go. All privately owned, open to you, landtrust.com. TrulockChokes.com is where I get all my, precision shooting equipment. Yeah, if I ever get anybody coming to me asking for shooting advice, and they really shouldn't. If you've seen me shoot, you know why. But one simple way to improve your average is to put in a quality choke tube. You might change the constriction as well, usually make it more open. But quality materials, quality engineering, quality control at the end of the line is what it's all about. And these guys are second to none. TrulockChokes.com, made in the United States of U.S. steel. So many features, from the exact diameter engraved on the body to the lifetime warranty and a satisfaction guarantee. Learn more at TrulockChokes.com. Just got my new waders from MidwayUSA.com. Yeah, fishing season, fishing gear, MidwayUSA.com. I'm also stocking up for bird season already. Ammo, some more clothing, kind of trying to wear a different kind of clothing, and they've got such a selection out there. All the big brand names, as well as some fascinating stuff in their military surplus department. Always fun and always a sale. Last time I looked, 10% off virtually everything. Don't know what's going on this very day, but you will know when you go to midwayusa.com. Sign up for their emails or text messages, and you will get 10% off your next order. It's all at midwayusa.com. Welcome back to the floor of the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic, where I'm learning something from every interview I do here in the Pointer Shotguns booth. And of course, we're all public land hunters. We want to learn more about that. Well, one of the speakers here has addressed that topic, and I'd like to get some more. I want to pick your brain, Keng Yang. Give me some background on yourself first.
Yeah, hi Scott. Thanks for having me on the show today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So my talk about basically is how to have a successful hunt on public land, right?
Yeah.
And I've broken that into, it's hard to break something that a whole season into 30 minutes. So
yeah.
The best I could do is break it down into timing and weather, patterns and pressure, and then just give overall just some field strategy to these people. In my background, I was an adult onset hunter. I started hunting in 2017 with my dog Kaya. She's the reason why I got out.
Okay, what kind of dog?
German Wirehair Pointer.
Excellent. We're related.
Yes. My dad has always had wire hairs, and so I was just naturally to get one myself. And so he had actually taught me how to hunt pheasants.
Yeah.
It was completely different than what I expected, right? So I'm pretty, growing up, I didn't take it, like I said, I didn't take hunting. And so when I wanted to start, I looked at films and videos online, and it's a bunch of guys walking in rows, right? Easy, like they're walking easily, slow. And when I went out there with my dad, it was a completely different style of pheasant hunting. And so it's kind of what I've grown and liked his style is what I'd like to do. So
a small group or just you two? Is that the big difference?
Not the big. No, I think our field strategies are different.
Great.
Whether small or big.
Okay.
So the biggest group I've hunted in is like 5 people.
Yeah.
And the smallest is me and him. So.
Well, you touched on a bunch of things that we're going to unpack for everybody, and the first one has to do with that group size.
Yeah.
We've all experienced in one way or another, whether we've watched or we've been a blocker or a driver, those massive South Dakota-style hunts.
Yeah.
You're not doing that.
No, not at all.
Maybe you don't have that many friends. I mean, that's my problem. So how else does your style differ?
I guess how we break up a field in terms of, like, you look at the layout of what a field looks like, right? What structures are on there, and then you try to predict where the birds are going to come out of.
Yeah.
From there, me and my dad are split up. Like, we'll take the one side, and I'll take the other side, like, of the property.
Yeah.
So I won't even talk to him the whole hunt.
You're really far apart.
Yeah, really far
like
apart.
200 yards or a half mile?
Like half mile sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Even, depending on the field, right?
Yeah.
But we're far enough where we won't talk the whole hunt.
I finally had that discussion with a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He's got a wire hair too, and then I have another friend with a Labrador, and so in either case, what we've all agreed is that's better.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'll share mine if you share yours. Why do you do that?
Why do we hunt like 200 yards?
Yeah, why are you so far apart?
Just because we're trying to cover ground quickly, right? So if you're working together and you're doing a circle, let's just say that takes 20 minutes. If you were to split it up, you would have both covered the field in half that time, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why we're doing it. And I think it doesn't really matter on your dog too, because my dog's a big runner and his dog's a closer working dog. And so, but the main goal is to reduce our time in the field so we can get to the other ones.
So being efficient is what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do it for a bunch of reasons. Those are less important to me than dog work and not having conflicting dog work.
Yeah.
You got a lumbering Labrador who stumbles in on every point by my wire hair. Love you, Buster, up there. But there are conflicts in dog work sometimes.
Yes.
And you mentioned another one, which is a close working versus a big running dog. Sometimes I've had two dogs of my own, and they will work together in that regard, and it's kind of handy. But you're doing the same thing, you're just spread out.
Spread out, yep.
Then you also mentioned something else interesting to me, timing.
Yeah.
And I've written a lot on the subject of how to access public land and how to do it in a strategic manner. But what do you mean by timing? Because I got my own thoughts on that.
Yeah, so me and my dad are always chasing our limit, right? Like when we get out there, we're driving 2 hours away, right? And so we're spending a weekend there. We don't want to waste time and bring home two birds, right? We want to bring home the bacon, right? And so, the best way to do it, there's birds on public land, but sometimes they're far and few in between, right? And so how do you cover, depending on the changing weather and the changing, like let's say, field structures, you have to figure out how to get into as many fields as possible. In that short time span. So that's why we try to be efficient.
So by timing, you don't mean the time of year, the time of day, as much as you mean being efficient in your use of time.
Yes. So that's a good thing you bring it up too. Like we don't do lunch on the tailgate, right? I remember
granola bar on the run.
Exactly, granola bar on the run, or eating some rice and beef jerky while we're driving to the next field. He's very conscious of being efficient in his time. So I remember I was like, why don't we just take 2-hour break, because everyone's doing it, right? Like all the other hunters are at the bar or at the restaurant eating. Why can't we do that? He goes, no, we got to go and find these birds because they're out there, but they're hard to find. So,
do you ever time your hunts around other people? For example, South Dakota is a perfect example. A lot of the walk-in access has a little postage stamp size parking area, and so I'll try and be the first guy in that area. And while you can't hunt until 10 a.m., if you're the first guy in that area at 6:30, then you have your coffee and you read the newspaper. Maybe somebody else won't go there. Or if they do, they'll get along. You'll share a little coffee, and he'll go right, you go left, whatever. But being there first makes sense. You ever think about those sort of things?
Yeah, we're always there first. So, for example, especially on opener, right? Opener, where usually is, so shooting time in Minnesota is at 9 a.m. We're usually by our spot by 5 a.m.
Oh my.
All
right, so let's talk about that. So you're the guy we love and we hate. We're going to love you after you tell us why and how. But if you're there when I get there, I'm really mad at you. So you get there, let's just pretend it's 3 or 4 hours before legal shooting time wherever we are. And you're from Minnesota, so it may be different. But what do you do the whole time?
Sleep.
Okay. Sure, of course.
Try not to take a number 2. So, but mostly sleep and just sit in the car. I don't know, my dad, ever since I started hunting with him, that's all he's done. He's just be there early. Because if you're the first, then your odds are way better. And with bigger fields too, especially on opener, we try to have a group on openers. Just so that there's bigger fields that we like, right? And how do you keep that field to yourself? So we'll take 2 or 3 cars. And then we'll park at all the access points. On the corners, right? So.
Do you? So you just answered the question. But what if it's just you and your dad, or just you? And your wire hair. And there is a parking area. And there's several people in it. Maybe it's overrun. What would you do next?
Oh, we'd go right to another field. We wouldn't even try to bother at all.
Would you go around to an entirely different block on the map, or would you go around to the other side of the same place, for example?
Depending on the field, if we know that there's birds on the other side of the field, then yes, we would go to the other side of the field. And if there's no parking over there, we would one person would hang back, right? So my dad would stay back, and he'll drop me off on the other side, and then wait till I get back to the car. But if it's just me or if there is no birds like on the other side, then we'll just go straight to a different field.
Sure.
We won't even waste our time.
Well, let's talk about that on a more macro scale. We all go to our spots we know well.
Yeah.
But even then, at one point you didn't know it well.
Right.
It's a new county, it's a new state, whatever it is. You're still at home. What are you doing to plan for a trip like that?
Yeah, so what I'm looking at is, okay, so where can I go sleep and get gas, right?
Yeah.
So I got to figure out, and then from there, how far is public land? So I'm trying to go out either the farthest place I can find on the map and work my way in.
Yeah.
So, because you don't want to continue driving out and then have to drive super long distance back to sleep, right? You want to start far and then work your way back in. So that's what I do. And I usually try to find clusters of public land where it's not taking me an hour or two to get to the next field. I want to see public land close enough where it takes maybe 30 minutes maximum, right? And so being efficient with that time as well.
Have you watched my webinar?
I have not.
That's part 3.
Okay. Well, this great minds think alike.
I'm so glad to be validated.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't other people do that? What's your thought on that?
I don't know. Maybe it's because people have their spots already, right? And so they just go there. They don't want to try something different. I mean, me and my friend, I remember we got really tired of hunting like the traditional areas we've done, and so one day we were like, let's go try something random. It's like something different.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the structure, just pick it. Doesn't matter the structure on the property. Let's just pick a spot and go. And we had great success that weekend.
Yeah.
Like we got our 2-man limit for 2 days. So.
That'd be a fun game, actually.
Yeah.
We had a little gathering. We've had it several places, but you could put the map up of all the walk-in areas and have people throw darts.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun, yeah.
Okay, if anybody out there wants to organize that, I ain't doing it.
But it challenges yourself, right? When you become a better seasoned hunter, you start seeing the same places again, and you're like, I want something new, something different. And so challenge yourself.
I'm glad to hear somebody else doing the things that I've learned the hard way as well.
Yeah.
And it does work. One of the advantages to picking the farthest spot to go first is that's dead time anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't hunt. You may as well drive.
Right, exactly.
But there are times, and I'll lobby for this too, there's a place in Nevada where I hunt.
Okay.
The nearest town where everybody stays is 20 minutes to 2 hours away from where the good hunting is, depending on how you define that. But everybody stays in town at Bruno's Country Club.
Okay.
And then first thing in the morning, it's like a Grand Prix race. They run out of their rooms, start the cars and trucks, and race out of there, all on the same bad dirt road.
Yeah.
We were there. We did it. Tire blew. We pulled off. I'm changing a tire while everybody's racing past, saying, "Ah!"
Oh, gosh.
So by the time all the dust clears and the tire is changed, it's quiet. We're thinking they all beat us to all those spots we wanted to beat them to. What about that canyon right there?
Yeah.
Just like you and your random choice once in a while. I said, nobody even glanced at it as they raced past.
Right.
2 chucker cubbies and a spring.
Wow.
Incredible cover.
Yeah.
Wonderful hunting. Sore feet. And a couple birds in the bag.
Now you're going to keep it in your pocket, right?
Yeah. You'll never get that one from me.
Yeah.
But so there is a time, and I bring it up because you think strategically it's very clear.
Yeah.
There is a time when you should zig when they zag.
Yes.
Do you have any more examples of things like that, like the picking at random and my brilliant dart throwing idea?
I had some more strategies, like not specifically places, but like how to hunt fields that have already been hunted.
Yeah,
right?
go to that. Yeah, tell me.
So like this past season, there's like no snow, right?
Yeah.
So it was my first season with no snow, and by mid-season, I'm usually used to just going straight to cattails or straight to those thicker covers, right?
Yeah.
But I noticed that there was birds still on. The cover all around was still great.
Yeah.
That grass was beautiful still, and so there's gonna be birds in there. And so, how do I find birds here because I know they're not gonna, they're probably gonna be in the cover, but there's maybe some out here too. So what I've done is I hunted behind hunters. Yeah. So even though someone's parked there and hunting, and they've come back to the car and left, I'll go right behind them, especially if it's fields that I've known that I've hunted before, right?
Yeah.
And that brings to your point, like when to zig, when they zag, right?
Yeah.
And so, or when they zig and you zag.
Well, but I do this a lot fishing. I like to think I think like a trout, and while somebody might have hammered that edge and that rock, they missed the channel in the middle.
Yeah.
But where's the channel in the middle? If somebody hunts through there with another dog, that dog's covering a little bit of ground, maybe a lot, or maybe none, I don't know. So when you're going through the same thing, what do you do differently than what they did?
So the first thing they would just look where they will hunt, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing everyone tries to go to is the edge, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably going on the edge with his dog, and so what I do is I'll go deeper into the field. I'd stay off the edge, try to pick off the birds that have ran around him and his dog. You know what I mean? And I found great success doing that.
Yeah.
And just going to different cover that people wouldn't want to go again, even in that season, right? So, like woodlines.
Yeah.
Woodlines were great.
Yeah.
People would stay in the field and not go into the woods.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
one year me and my dad were hunting, and we just noticed all these birds always flying into these woods, just because there's not cut corn, but there's like a planted corn on public land, and all the hunters always hunt that corn. And as soon as you get out the car, you see just the birds just dumping into the woods. But we never see no one go in there, and so that's where we go. We just it's kind of like, where do the birds hide? But like they're hiding under those little shrubs in those woods. And so
we're guilty as magazine writers of always telling people look for the ideal cover. And by the way, if you don't know what it is, I'm going to describe it in excruciating detail. But the problem is that only works for the first guy on opening day.
Yes.
And so a lot of times I'll recommend look for the second best stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe by the third week of the season, it's the third best stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I talk to a lot of biologists, and I ask them, okay, what if a coyote comes through that field? Or what if, a big line of hunters comes through it? Or somebody's dog gets loose and it goes through there. Where do those birds go, and how long until they come back to that great cover that we just learned about from you?
Right.
And they shrug their shoulders.
They don't know either.
No. So I think you're just as safe, presuming those birds won't be back until next season.
Yeah.
And why not look at the crappier stuff?
Right.
Give me an example of that. I mean, have you ever had a stellar day hunting all the marginal junk?
I guess not really, because we're always changing it, but there is scenarios where we're hunting these junk fields. I remember there's this huge field, and probably about 2 miles across and a mile wide, or a mile wide, 2 miles across. And half of the field was thick, beautiful grass, and the other half was sparse. Like, you could literally walk through there and not even think that it's grass, right?
Yeah.
And, ideally, if you look at it, you want to hunt that nicer cover, right?
Of course.
So instead, we're like, it's almost late. It's like mid to late season. Let's skip that cover and let's just go straight to that weird looking sparse stuff. And that's where you found the birds. And I don't know why, but they were holding literally like in the middle of nothing. You know what I mean? You need a good dog that holds real tight, though. I'll be honest on that. Like, my dog kind of, if she sees it, she's going to try to get it. But my friend's dog, he points right on the scent. And so he had the better shots that day.
I believe it.
Yeah. So, but those are the kind of things that
we hunted. We were headed for a canyon on a big river for chuckers last day of the season. It was so cold. It was so windy, and there was so much snow on the ground. In fact, the agency had locked the gate. We couldn't even drive down to it.
Oh, wow.
So we hunted around on the top, and it was so cold. It's so windy. We said, to heck with it. We made a couple big circles in pretty good chucker habitat. And we were on the far side of the far side when we said, enough about this. The dogs are cold. We're cold. Let's take a shortcut across that wheat stubble. And son of a gun, if before I can tie my boot, My dog's on point in the middle of that stubble.
Oh, nice.
What he had found is, number one, where all the birds have been chased to, and number two, the little dish of a low spot where the Huns were out of the wind.
Oh, yeah.
It was this, a foot lower than the surrounding area, and that's all it took.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. So, again, junk habitat compared to everything else.
Yep.
But everything else being relative.
Right, especially when, there's a lot of pressure, right? That junk habitat is your best habitat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like following that guy on the trout stream.
Yes.
Just hit the rocks he didn't hit.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, you're listening to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden. We're down here at Sioux Falls, South Dakota for the Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. Keng Yang is with me. Keng has been giving talks on hunting public ground and strategies involved with that. We'll get back to that and more right after this quick break. Yeah, more to come from Keng Yang when it comes to public access and camaraderie in the field. This guy knows a little bit about that stuff, and you're probably going to learn something as well. Also, we have that training table trick when you teach whoa, so stick around for the Handle It segment. And it's all brought to you by ESPAmerica.com. You know the biggest little secret pro hunters aren't telling you? Well, I've told you. I mean, I shoot like a pro, but I do it on TV. Well, the answer is hearing the valuable sound clues that make you a better shot. Could be anything from your dog's panting to collar tag jingling, and of course, a flushing bird behind you. You can do all that and still protect your hearing from those massive impacts of a shotgun blast with an ESPAmerica.com custom-fit digital hearing protection system. You'll shoot better, you'll shoot more, and it'll fit like a dream. Custom fit for you and you alone. Learn more at ESPAmerica.com. And shoot better by taking a lesson at Mid-Valley Clays Shooting School or picking up a new shotgun for this season. Dave Fiedler is the man. This guy knows shotguns inside and out as a professional competitor and also as an avid bird hunter. If you're looking for a new gun, why don't you start with Dave? He's available by phone to talk to you about your needs, whether it's a sub-gauge gun, moving from over and under to side-by-side, moving from a semi to an over and under, whatever it is. This guy has recommendations that will help you find the right gun at the right price. And when you're ready to buy, he'll ship it anywhere, anytime. Make him your first stop when you're shooting for a new shotgun. MidValleyClays.com. And clean it up after you shoot with the gear you get at SageandBreaker.com. Gun cleaning and care crafted at the highest caliber. If you want to take good care of your gun, provide the tender, loving care that Sage and Breaker, well, what do I call it? Gun care gear. From cases of all sorts to cleaning supplies and tools. It's a company that I've been a supporter of for many, many years. I use their gear. All of it is highest quality, and all their cases, gun cleaning mats, and tools come with a lifetime warranty. Learn more at SageandBreaker.com. Welcome back. I'm Scott Linden. That's Keng Yang. He's in the right speaker. I'm in the left speaker. This is the Sioux Falls Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. Keng, have you been to one of these before?
Yeah, I was there last year and I think the year before. So yeah, I was speaking last year as well. But
okay.
Yeah, this one's busy. This one's a lot of people.
Astounding, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't know what the numbers are yet because we haven't closed. It's Sunday after. Well, I guess technically it's Sunday noon around here. But the crowds, the Sunday morning crowd is bigger than I've ever seen.
I know. I agree. I completely agree. Like by this time, usually when Minnesota last year, I didn't see this as many people. So it's great. I love it.
Yeah, good. And we're here in the Pointer Shotgun booth, so thanks for stopping by if you did while you were here. But Keng, what have you seen out here in your wanderings that might have tripped your trigger? Anything exciting, new, different, weird?
Not yet. I guess, you know, what I've noticed more, though, is there's a lot of smaller vendors.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of smaller startup shops, right? And that's great to see. You know, you have your big sponsored booths on the fronts, right, on the aisles. But, you know, it's great to see all these new up-and-coming brands trying to do their thing, too, in the industry. So,
you know, like fly fishing and probably bow hunting and maybe a couple others, trapping, for example, there's a lot of inventive entrepreneurs out there who can afford a booth somewhere in here and show you the great idea they have.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, I bought a few of those things on this trip. I hope they work as advertised.
Did you see those glasses or those etched glasses with the dogs and the birds on them?
Yes.
Yes, I like that. That was something new. I liked. So.
Yes, there's always room for more dog stuff.
Right.
So tell me, you know, most people who are, like you and me, adult onset hunters, I might have had a different path than you because you knew about that world. I didn't, but I got a wire hair.
Yeah.
Found out I was a bird dog, and poof, there it was. I bought a shotgun. The rest is history, such as it is.
Yeah.
How did you, what made you decide to become a hunter? And I'm kind of surprised if your father was a hunter. You didn't get involved in that when you were 9 years old.
Nope, I didn't. I remember, though, when I was 9, he took me to deer camp. And the only thing I wanted to do was, the first thing I thought was just, I wanted to go camp. Like, my family, my dad never took us camping. So I always wanted to go camp. So I'm like, okay, maybe deer camp, this would be an opportunity to just go camp and hang out and, you know, and stuff like that. And so I went with him, and it was cold, right? Couldn't go anywhere. I had to stay by the tent. It was dark. You know, and it's like, we were trying to maneuver through, like, huge bluffs, right? And I'm like, geez, this is not fun. And so I've never liked it. And the idea of killing an animal, you know, in our culture, we're Hmong, so we do a lot of, I remember we go to parties where they'd kill pigs, right?
Yeah, sure.
In the basement.
I think I was there. I can't remember, though.
And so just like, you know, I eat meat, but then just seeing that, you know, deterred me from hunting. And just the whole kind of idea that I only had the idea that hunters were out there to kill and take only, right? There was nothing beyond that. So, which is not true, right? Like, we do more for conservation than most groups, right?
Everybody put together.
Everybody put together. And so I didn't see that. And what started, with my dog. When I got her, I've always loved animals. And she's a honey dog, right? So what do you do with a honey dog? You hunt.
Another high five.
So, you know, I had to make sure that I wanted to give her the best life possible, right? Like the best experiences. Something that would be fulfilling, rewarding, right, for her.
For her,
and so that's why I picked up hunting.
You know, that is just hilarious. I tell that story every time. I never hear that story. It's so true, and and more power to you. Good on you.
Thank you.
So then what? What happened after that? Did you just start talking to people, watching the videos you're talking about? Did you reach out to anybody else to try and find a mentor or anything?
Yeah, so it's funny. You know, me and my dad are very different, so we argue a lot. If me and him were to try to put on a door put a door on the wall, like, we would argue right away. You know, he's always telling me how to do this, I'm always telling him how to do that. So when I got my dog, I was like, yeah, Dad, even though you've been hunting for like 10 years, like, you don't know what you're doing.
Whoops.
You know, like, I was like, don't you see these videos of people just walking these fields and, you know, they're going this way, they're all like taking one direction and they're talking to each other across the, you know, like, this is how it should be done. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go take my dog to the trainer just because, you know, I've never had a dog. I want something obedient. And he's like, you don't need to do that. Just take your dog out there at 6 months, shoot a gun near it, and your dog will be able to hunt. Like, your dog will naturally be able to hunt. If it can't, then you got to get a different dog, right? I'm like, you're crazy. Like, his style and his, like, techniques are crazy. You know, it would be crazy to anybody if they were to talk to him. And so, you know, I went that route where I at first we were like, you know, I wanted to do it my way versus him, right?
Yeah.
But then when the actual day of the hunt came, I learned really well that I should listen to him.
Yeah.
Because he knows
Yeah.
where the birds are.
Yeah.
I mean, he came back with a bag full of like 2 birds, and I was like 0.
Yeah.
And so,
so there is a time to listen and a time not
yeah,
to listen.
yeah, totally. And even for the first year or 2, we would always like talk strategies and argue. And he's like, I've always thought I knew more than him, but he always knew more.
Yeah.
For sure, 100%. But now I'd say we're pretty much at the same level of expertise. So
Okay, but Dad, if you're listening, he'll still go with you.
yeah. So yeah, no, that's kind of the route we took. As in terms of a dog training, I see a lot of people do that, right? And I wanted a dog that was finished, so I took some research and found a kennel. What is it? Jeff Stevenson gun dogs.
Yeah.
Trained great. My dog came back after a month and 2 months and was, perfect.
Yeah.
And then after that, after I got the hunting down with my dad, what I wanted to do was get in touch with the community.
Yeah.
The hunting community, right?
Yeah.
Because the Hmong community, we're very small and we don't have any kind of conservation mindset, right?
Yeah.
Within the
Yeah.
hunters, and so, or maybe they do, but they just don't show it.
Okay.
And so I wanted to connect with communities, and so what I first did was I signed up to be on NAVDA.
Okay,
American
good.
Hunting
Yeah,
Dog.
yeah.
And then from there, I joined Delta Waterfowl.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to, where did I go from there? BHA
Yeah.
and Pheasants Forever, right? And then also joined like local state government council. So I joined the R3 council
Okay.
with the state.
Yeah.
And then I also joined the Natural Heritage Advisory Committee with the state of Minnesota. And so that was to give me different perspectives of non-game hunters and hunters.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Is there a big difference?
There's not really a big difference because we're all trying to do the same thing, right?
Yeah,
We're all trying to protect our wildlife,
Yeah.
right? They just don't hunt, and while R3 hunters hunt, right? And so how do you make that cross-pollination between groups? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you bring in those partnerships? So like scientific natural areas are places in Minnesota that you can hunt. You can't hunt all of them, but there's specific ones you can hunt.
Sure.
And so if you're trying to learn how to hunt and know where to go, SNAs are great places to start, right? But you wouldn't know that unless you were in a non-game,
How about the other
mindset.
side of things? I remember sitting in a meeting one day and realizing, I stood up and I said, if we don't all hang together, we're all going to hang separately. Mm-hmm. It was a different issue, but when you announce that you're a hunter and you're in one of those non-hunting groups, how is that received?
It's been received really well, actually.
Good.
And
Yeah.
in my experience, I mean, it may be different for other people, but
Yeah.
it was really received really well. I mean, there was already other hunters on those councils as well. But yeah, it was received really well. I think the thing is you have to go into those meetings with an open mind.
Yeah.
And be able to work together and collaborate
Yeah.
in an effective manner, right? And
Yeah.
having respect for each other, right?
There you go.
Some people may want to be non-lead ammo, and a hunter would be like, I don't know about that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so you have to have those deeper discussions, right?
Yeah.
And work it out. So
Yeah.
that what would benefit the better. The
Well,
greater.
I think you hit on the word, and that is respect.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot less of that than we think there is out there. We talk
Yeah.
a good game, and then we act a little differently sometimes.
Right.
We being all of us individually and collectively. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, you're listening to the Upland Nation podcast from the floor of the Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Keng Yang is my guest. Ken is, doing the same exploratory life that many of us are. We started late. We're learning every day. Keng, if you could narrow it down to like a really important lesson, a practical lesson for hunters, bird hunters, dog owners. Could you narrow it down, focus on one thing?
Yeah, my thing would be to hunt all day.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah.
Or, I'd say, you have your people telling you all this stuff, but you're not gonna know how to hunt, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna be better if you don't be out there all day, right? Like, I remember my dad and us, we used to always hunt from 8 a.m. till 4:30 in Iowa, right? And that's like the shooting times. And if you don't do that, you don't experience where the birds are going. You don't have, even in weather, right? So hunting in rain, not just fair days, but hunting in rain when it's snowing and high wind days. Like, even though you're gonna be like, oh man, I don't want to go out into that kind of weather. You do it because you're not going to learn if you don't experience it, right? And so...
We talked timing in the first segment, and there's a real value in being out for as much of the day as you can, because you learn a little bit more about a bird's routine.
Yes, exactly.
When are they there? Roosting, loafing, feeding cover. And granted, some of that takes place before and after we are allowed to hunt.
Yeah.
But most of it does.
Yeah.
What about your dog? What have you learned from your dog lately?
What I've learned is to be scared of how quick they get old, or how quick they age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I thought she was gonna be young forever.
Yeah.
Feels like that. Like, they always high energy. She still has pretty good energy now, and she's 7. But I mean, my dad's dog, they passed away at 11 and 12.
Yeah.
Right. And people's dog usually get to about 10 when they stop hunting, and so I only have 3 years left for her, with her, right? And so I just learned really to cherish these early moments, either they're good or bad with her. And I'm scared that I'm not gonna get another dog like her, which is probably gonna happen, right? Like you're never gonna find a dog like the
they're
one.
Never exactly, but
right.
I've been lucky. I'm on my 5th wire here.
Okay.
I've become a better human for my dogs, and so they've become better dogs for me. We're better trainers. We're better hunters.
Yeah.
We're better dog care people. So don't let that deter you.
Okay. I was scared. I'm like, I don't know when I'm gonna buy a puppy.
Now.
Right? I should. Yeah.
At our house, it's a negotiation.
Yep.
Are you married?
No, not married.
Okay,
Single.
so you don't have that impediment.
Right. I could spend 3 days in the field by myself.
Yeah. So. Speaking of 3 days in the field, we talk about this a lot, and you do it, I do it. We go a long way to hunt. I do in the West. And so you're committed. It's 3, 4, 5, 7 days. And you develop routines and practices that allow you to hunt multiple days in a row.
Yep.
What are some of those, either for you or for your feet or for your dog?
Really just good shoes and
Yeah.
understanding the cover you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a hot weather, right, so if your dog can't do hot days, keep them off the hot days.
Yeah.
But really understanding the fields you're going to. And so at first when I started hunting, my dad was like, your dog's going to get beat up if they go into that field. I'm like, how do you know? It looks just like grass.
Yeah.
And they come out and they're beat up because it's woody, right? It's woody grass.
Yeah,
and thicker shrubs. And so what I've learned is, in order to be able to hunt those 3 days, making sure that, you're selecting the right cover at the right time, right? If she has high energy, work those bigger fields. If she's tired out, work those smaller fields with, more structure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And one thing I learned too is that, the dog learns this as they go, right?
Yeah.
It's not, you have your new dog hunting in the field, they're not going to know this at all. Your dog isn't going to go 100% straight back up and down the field, whatever, right? A smart dog eventually starts learning that they have to conserve this energy. And so if you don't hunt these 3 days consistently, your dog doesn't understand that it needs to slow down. It needs to learn itself to, conserve that energy. And so when you do that, again, I think it was like maybe year 3 or 4, she started, instead of zigzagging across the field like she was trained to do, she would walk in straight lines. You know what I mean? She would use the wind, depending on where the wind was.
Sure, yeah.
So she's learning out there, trying to conserve her energy just as much. Working edges, right? Like cattail edges. She doesn't like to go into them. She'll she'll just walk a line on the edge, and if she senses something, then she'll go in. Using the wind and also using her tracking. And so these are things the dog learns itself, but you have to really push your dog for it to understand how to conserve that energy. Yeah,
set them up for the right things.
Right.
And sometimes bring them in. But you mentioned something that as a NAVTA guy you understand. We judge for use of nose. And sometimes that means you're running straight up because the wind is crossing.
Right.
Or you're doing a circle, and I had a great bit of advice from a sharp-tailed guide years ago. He said, we make a big circle. We start at the truck, we make a big circle. It doesn't matter, counterclockwise, clockwise, it doesn't matter. For 3/4 of that circle, we got good wind.
Okay.
no matter where it's coming from. And I love that idea.
Yeah.
And I use it whenever I can.
Yeah.
But that's another way to help your dog use their nose and maybe pace themselves a little bit more.
Yes.
Do you ever just slow your dog down? You got a pointing dog like I do.
Mm-hmm.
You ever slow your dog down, maybe walk it at heel for some reason in the field while you're hunting?
Only if it's maybe there's a deer carcass or next to the road. But no, I don't try to slow her down or correct her at all.
Yeah.
When I'm in the field, I'm following her, right?
Yeah.
And I'm leading her in the right directions of the field, but most of the time it's her picking it up by herself.
Yeah.
And that's the only way they're gonna learn, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I would agree. And some of us try to hack our dogs way too much once they're out in the field and they've got a snoot full of whatever it is.
Right.
Even if it's porcupine.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just out in the field with a friend this 2 weeks ago. And this is his first dog. It's their first time in the field. Sorry. Excuse me. And I told him, I was like, this is your first time in the field with your dog. You're going to be very frustrated. I'll tell you now, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to look at my dog and see my dog find birds, see my dog work closer, and you have a bigger running dog. You're going to be very frustrated. So what I want you to do is don't recall your dog.
Yeah.
Let him run.
Yeah.
Let him figure it out. If he's gone, he needs to understand that he's gone too far. He has to come back to find you. And so, right, you just have to really hunt and let them do what they want. Let them learn and experience it themselves too, right? So
dig deep. Last question of the day for you, Keng Yang.
Yeah.
Your best hunt of the season.
The best hunt of the season.
You could define best any way you like.
Sure. So best hunt of the season would probably be Iowa opener.
Really?
Yeah, me and my friend and my dad. My dad dropped me and my friend off into a field, and my dad went to a separate field just because of the size, right? It was too small for 3 people, but big enough for 2. We went in there and we probably saw about 20 roosters, and we each shot our 3 within 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then we go find my dad, and he's on his last bird.
Wow.
And so, we literally got our 3, 6, 9 birds in an hour, and then the next day it was exactly the same.
And exactly where was that? I'm going tomorrow.
I would say this: Iowa gives out a bird count. Just follow the numbers.
Yeah.
Don't try to say, oh no, their numbers aren't right. Just follow the numbers. Especially if you're new, right?
Yeah.
You're wanting to go, just follow the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of us don't do near as much homework as we should, and that is one of the ways to do it.
Yes, yeah.
Some of those bird counts are a little less scientific than others, but they're all useful when you add them to everything else. Right.
Yeah, it's a good starting point.
Are there any other things like that you look at when we're in the middle of the off season now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are you reading? What are you watching? How are you learning about the things that will help you next season?
Yeah, I'm looking at water, right? How much rain these counties are getting.
Yeah.
Right? I'm keeping an eye on how they're going to look like in the spring and through the summer. So I'm making sure when there's areas of water and there's better growth for habitat, that's what you want to stick to. What else I'm looking at is really just trying to find new spots.
Yeah.
Other than that, like I said, all these states have areas that they can point you to already, and just kind of try to figure out where you want to go next. I like the exploring aspect of it.
Well, I'm doing more and more of that too, and that was another segment of the webinar that I swear to God you could have written. But I look at alternate sources, both for new ground to run on and for information.
Oh, yeah.
For example, South Dakota is full of it along the Missouri River. Mm-hmm. Lots of Army Corps of Engineers land and Bureau of Reclamation land that nobody else bothers with. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say pheasant hunting land. It says Army Corps of Engineers.
Right.
But it's open. Much of it is open to us.
Yep.
Where do you go to find? What kind of information sources do you use to search for new places?
So the number one place I look for on it is Onyx. That's what I use.
Yeah. So you're just browsing the map.
Yeah, just browsing the map. Just like, hey, this is where I usually go. Let's see what's around here. Let's see what's way over here, right?
Yeah.
And then let's look for areas that we're not unfamiliar with. Secondly, what I look at is Pheasants Forever. They post a lot of new tracks that they purchase. So those are great places to mark down and, swing by, right? If you want to look at it, see how it looks like, mark it. Maybe it's going to be better next year, right?
Yeah,
And so those Pheasants Forever, they give out they announce their new tracks and stuff like that all the time. And so I'm always marking those as well.
And, of course, Pheasants Forever plus Quail Forever.
Yeah,
They're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And they really need to come up with a better name.
Yeah.
I told Howard Vincent years ago, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Well, good. And I'm psyched. I'm already laying plans for this season.
Me too.
So are you.
Yep.
Know that. Everybody else out there, I hope you learned something from Keng Yang. He's a wealth of information. I wish you could listen to him here at the show. But, Keng, if they want to learn more about how you think, what you do, and how they can get help from you in your writing and speaking, where do they go for more information?
Yeah, they could go to my website. It's minnesota-hunter.com.
Yeah.
And then also on Instagram is where I usually post, which is my first and last name, KENGYANG, and then the number 1. That's my
Good,
handle.
and I'll post all those links up on the podcast website when you go live. In the meanwhile, I'll remember this until next year when we meet again.
Yeah, we should meet again. Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about.
Or in the field before that.
Yes, that'd be more fun. Let's do that.
All right. Well, speaking of speeches, you've got to go do one.
Yeah.
So do I.
All right.
Thanks a lot for being a part of the Upland Nation podcast.
Thank you, Scott.
More to come. I'll give you one more way to use that training table. You did make one, right? Coming up in just a moment. First, a word from PointerShotguns.com. Counting down to the opener. Yeah. If you're in California, it's only 108 days to the Zone 1 and 3 quail season. If you're a lucky SOB that lives in Zone 2, you can start on September 28th. October 19th is the more traditional date there. It's also the same date for South Dakota's general pheasant season. 108 days from the day this podcast is published. I know. It's like counting down to Christmas, but it's early. Thanks to Pointer Shotguns, maybe you can get something under the tree before December 25th. It's time to dial in your new shotgun. Get one by starting at PointerShotguns.com. Take a look at all the finishes, all the sizes, all the configurations, all the colors. PointerShotguns.com is your source for just about any kind of shotgun for you, your new hunters, or a friend. And Pro Plan Sport dog food is what I use. Flick seems to like it pretty darn well, and he is really in good shape. The correct proportions of protein and fat are part of that. The first ingredient is meat. That means amino acids to nourish his muscles, especially when he's recovering after a hard workout. All of those ingredients are there for a reason. Tried and true, proven and tested by all the pro trainers. There's no other reason for you to shop beyond Pro Plan Sport. Learn more at ProPlansport.com. Only one brand fuels the most sporting dog champions. ProPlansport.com. Well, I've belabored the point before, and I won't do it again, but a training table is probably the most useful tool that you'll ever have in your dog training repertoire. Call it what you will, make it out of whatever you want. I saw one made out of a couple pallets and a few 2x4s on a video recently. Doesn't matter. The whole point is getting the dog up off the ground and then being able to work it on them, whether it's doctoring, inspecting, or training. I learned this one just by sheer accident. You know, I teach whoa on the training table for all my dogs for all those reasons, but I hit upon another one. You know, usually we relate to that table, and so does the dog, lengthwise. You know, you got 8 feet of plywood, basically, and it's about, 4 foot wide, maybe 3.5. And you work on him by holding him at one end and expecting him to stand still while you do other distracting things at the other end. Well, one of the things I found is that, hey, they don't want to fall off that table. So once in a while, change things up and turn him crosswise, perpendicular to the narrow width instead of the length. His toes will be right on the edge like a surfer hanging 10, right on the edge of that table. And he is even more reluctant to step forward because there's no table in front of him. So if you're having trouble kind of steadying your dog on the training table, turn him sideways and try that for a while. All those distractions become a little bit more, reinforcing when he'd step off into space if he tried to go after them. Yeah, so certainly worth a try. One of those many things that may help when nothing else does. Good luck on that one. That was our Handle It segment for this week, and it was brought to you by HiVizSites.com. See what you've been missing. I'm experimenting more and more. I like the brightest of the HiViz interlocking light pipes that I can find because it just literally shines at the end of my shotgun muzzle, and that way I don't have to work at finding it. I don't look at this sight, but I see the sight. It's part of the whole sight picture. And the joy of HiViz sights is you can change those out depending on the weather, the time of day, or your color blindness. Mine is yellow. I like yellow so much more than the other choices. It just jumps for me. But you can choose your own. Every time you get one, it comes with a variety of colors. Change them out as you need them. Keep them with you. Put them in your vest pocket. HiVizSites.com. Learn more. See what you've been missing. HiViz sites.com. Well, thanks, Keng Yang. I learned a lot, and I hope everybody else did too. Appreciate that. Hey, if you want to stay in touch with Keng, it is at Keng Yang 1 on Instagram, and that's KENGYANG 1. That's the best way to reach Keng. Learn what he's up to these days. Maybe you want to get involved in one of the activities that he's pulling together or is participating in. And of course, I sure appreciate it when you tell one person about the Upland Nation podcast. That's how we grow, and we continue to grow and grow and grow. Hey, we're now on Pandora if you listen at the office on your computer. Yeah, and I thank all of our sponsors who make it possible. Sage and Breaker, Purina Pro Plan Sport, ESPAmerica, Mid-Valley Clays, TrulockChokes, Midway USA, Land Trust, Pointer Shotguns, and HiViz Shooting Systems. Most of all, though, I want to thank you for being a part of the Upland Nation, pitching in with advice, feedback. Thanks for all the comments on those bonus episodes, and for sticking with us for so long. And I hope you'll join me long into the future. I'm Scott Linden. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation podcast.